This house that you guys see right behind me has been listed for rent for about 3 months, a little over 100 days it's been on the market. They initially were asking $4,700 a month. Now the new price is $4,300 per month. And if that sounds high to you guys, let's look at something here real quick. A couple blocks that way is the Atlantic Ocean, guys. You can literally walk less than 5 minutes to the beach from this house. And even though it's an older house, the condition inside is actually not bad. It's a little bit outdated, but you know, it looks good enough for what it is. 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Considering the fact that most condos in this area that are 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom rent for more than that now, this is actually a pretty good deal. And I think this house actually is a pretty good sign that the rental market overall is starting to soften, because when you're seeing places that are actually a decent deal with today's pricing in the area sit on the market for this long, that's kind of unusual. Every time I've had a rental listing in the past, when it's priced right, I'll rent it within the first couple of weeks. I've never really had a rental sit on the market longer than a month at the maximum, you know, because the whole goal is to get it rented and to minimize vacancy. And the fact that this place has been listed for a little over 3 months is kind of crazy, guys, especially being walking distance to the beach like that. It's just not normal to see that, especially when we have such a red hot housing market that everyone is talking about. You know, everything's just flying off the shelves still. Well, it's not really happening anymore. So wanted to point that out. I thought it was interesting. I just parked right around the corner, happened to see the listing, and I wanted to show you guys that even when you have good deals, sometimes they're not moving. So I'm surprised it's not rented yet. You guys want to live the beach lifestyle? There you go, a house right next to the beach. Now I want to do a little segment in today's video called WTF SBF because this guy has literally stolen billions of dollars from people. It is unbelievable the amount of fraud that happened with this FTX scandal. And I just want to give like a quick overview of this thing because, you know, even myself, I'm just now coming to fully understand the level of fraud that happened here. And it is quite astonishing, guys. And like I've been telling everybody for the past several months on the channel on how much you got to watch out for scams, this FTX scandal is the perfect example of how you need to use your gut with things, and even things that can look legitimate sometimes can be a scam, because that's exactly what this was. The sad part is, you know, a lot of families are going to lose millions of dollars in wealth because they blindly invested into something like this, thinking that it was a good idea, you know, seeing different celebrity endorsements saying that, you know, it's a good investment and so on. But that just goes to show that a lot of people don't do their own due diligence in the way that they probably should. And I know it's one of those situations where no one could really predict that this was going to happen unless you were kind of really in the know with this company. The biggest thing with FTX is it's a crypto exchange. Just like other crypto exchanges out there, like Coinbase, and there used to be BlockFi, but FTX is now taking down BlockFi with it, essentially. But it's a place where you can buy and sell cryptocurrency in its basic format, okay? And where the fraud mostly occurred here is on two halves. One, you have a lot of the fraud occurring through their partner firm, Alameda Research, that would invent these other cryptocurrencies completely out of thin air that are worth absolutely nothing, guys. And then they would trade them back and forth internally to try to pump up the value. And then you get a lot of people investing into FTX saying, oh, look at this coin, you know, I can make X amount of return in just a few months on this thing or whatever. And then you get people who, you know, are led by greed into believing that this is a good thing and buying these coins that are essentially worthless. So that's one part of it. And the other part of it that was a total scam was the fact that if you went on FTX, for example, and bought Bitcoin, and that's just like using Bitcoin as an example, then there's a good chance that they never actually purchased the Bitcoin on your behalf with the money you gave the exchange. And they would tell you your account balance on FTX would say, hey, you own 1 Bitcoin now. But when in fact you actually do not, because they never actually bought it to begin with. You're seeing people lose billions of dollars worth of wealth from this fraudulent scam overnight. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I do own Bitcoin and Ethereum. And back in 2020, when I first decided to purchase some, I had heard about past cryptocurrency exchanges going through similar scams like this in the past, but since I was brand new to the crypto world, I didn't really know what to do about it. And I just knew that you could use one of these exchanges to buy it. What you're supposed to do with it after that, I'm not really sure. Okay, but thanks to one of my viewers back then, they actually pointed out that, hey, Michael, you should get a crypto hard wallet. So that way you can put your crypto in cold storage. It's not stored on one of the exchanges, and it can't be hacked because the exchanges can be hacked, which is what happened with one of the original exchanges back in the day called Mt. Gox. That exchange got hacked, and that was another situation where a ton of Bitcoin was stolen back in the day. So you had that going on. I was aware of that before I ever purchased any Bitcoin. But a lot of people who invested into FTX, for example, and bought crypto through them probably did not take this advice and did not put their crypto into a cold storage wallet. And that led to some big problems for all these people who invested in it. Got one for sale. Finally, a house that's not a flip. They've owned this place since 1997, bought it for 180 grand back then. However, their pricing strategy is all out of whack. They started at 1.5 million. Right now they're down to 1.3 million, but they actually raised it because before they were asking 1.275. What are they thinking? And by the way, guys, if you want to buy a crypto hard wallet, I have it linked down in the description below in case you want to pick one up. If you are planning on buying cryptocurrency, or you already own some and it's stored on an exchange like Coinbase, for example, or some other one, and you want to get it off of there because now you're freaking out, buy one of these ledgers and you won't regret it, because that'll give you total peace of mind that you're in control of your own crypto. And I think a lot of the other problems that come along with situations like this is just the general lack of knowledge in the crypto space. Like, I am not a know-it-all when it comes to this, but I understand the basic fundamentals of it, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. And so whenever I purchased it, I made sure to get educated on it, to know what I needed to do with it. I found out I needed to store it in the hard wallet, so I did it, and I have peace of mind with it. But also, besides that, an integral part of me actually buying Bitcoin was fully understanding why Bitcoin is different from a lot of these other cryptocurrencies, or basically all of them, in the sense that Bitcoin has a finite amount that can ever be produced. It's 21 million Bitcoin, and I forget the year when they're all going to be basically made by then, but it's only 21 million Bitcoin that's ever going to be produced. And a lot of people equate Bitcoin with all these other cryptocurrencies, thinking they're all just the same with different names, but they're not, guys, because anyone can just start one of these cryptocurrencies and basically make as many of them as they want and sell as many of them as they want and manipulate the values as they see fit. And that's the other part of this problem. You know, people were buying these coins that were just invented out of thin air from this Alameda research and got burned that way as well. So you had them selling you worthless cryptocurrencies, as well as not even purchasing the cryptocurrencies that they were supposed to be on your behalf. So lots of fraud happening here, a lot of people getting burned. So I think the bottom line from all of this is that you cannot trust any of these cryptocurrency exchanges other than just buying it and immediately transferring the balance to cold wallet storage device. And just to point this out, even though I do own some cryptocurrency, it's not a large portion of my portfolio, guys. I bought it as basically a speculative investment, and you know, I'm a long-time holder of it. I'm going to hang on to it for years to come to see where it goes. But by no means did I sink my life savings into it or anything like that. And unfortunately, for a lot of these people that took those type of gambles with FTX are going to have a big price to pay and are going to be learning a huge lesson from this, unfortunately. But that's just another reason, if you ask me, to always be looking at things that are more time-tested and true, like gold and silver. That's been money for, over 5,000 years. We have people that believe in the stock market. I know it's heavily manipulated and, can't really be trusted in that sense, but it's something that is probably a lot more trustworthy than buying cryptocurrency that you've never heard of and then just keeping it stored on one of these exchanges. That's probably one of the riskiest things you can do right now. And of course, you have other things that you can do that are time tested, like investing in real estate and buying bonds and different things like that come with their own set of risks, but nothing like this. Keep this in mind in the future when you're looking to invest in different things, and look at the track record and see what you're getting yourself involved in when you're investing in anything. And if you don't understand it, you probably shouldn't buy it, no matter how good of an investment or a deal it sounds like. Another crazy thing that we're seeing now that it is the week of Black Friday is a lot of younger Americans are still going to be purchasing different items and gifts, whatever, during the holiday season, even though they actually can't afford it. That's not good. All right, so obviously they're not watching the channel, they're not paying attention. Between July and September of 2022, credit card debt has risen $38 billion, which is a 15% year-over-year increase from last year, and it's the largest increase that we've seen in credit card debt in 20 years. The funny thing is, we're still below pre-pandemic levels of credit card debt, but obviously we're catching up to that number. And the amount of people who are past due on credit card debt is also rising. The amount of people who are 90 days delinquent or more on their credit cards right now is up 3.7%. And obviously this rise in credit card debt is never good, but it's coming at a terrible time when we have all kinds of companies doing layoffs and people not really sure when they're going to get their next paycheck. And right now, the Federal Reserve is predicting that next year in 2023, over 1 million people are going to lose their jobs. So that's pretty significant, guys. And if you're carrying credit card debt and you happen to be one of these people, I don't really know what to tell you. I've been telling you guys time and time again in all these videos to pay that stuff off and cut back and save on things that you can right now. But anyone who's not doing that or can't afford to do that, I mean, there's really nothing else to do or to say. I mean, you're going to be in trouble. That's really what it comes down to, unfortunately. But they're saying that this is going to particularly affect the younger generation, who is basically Gen Z or younger. During the Great Recession, which was like the crash that happened when I was younger, that Great Recession cost millennials about 13% of their earning potentials between the year 2005 and 2017. And, it's hard to say what if this, what if that, because no one really knows what you may have earned in the past if things didn't go south back then. But I'll tell you what, as somebody who did go through the Great Recession, back in 2008, I had just moved to Miami. I was a young guy. I was working at a restaurant and then started working in real estate. It was a tough several years, guys. It was not easy, and I did not earn a lot of money. I basically earned enough to pay the bills, and that was it. Really no extra money left over to do anything fun for quite a few years there. Back then, I was just feeling happy and lucky to be working for myself, once I got into real estate and didn't have to worry about having a boss anymore, as well as the fact that I could keep my rent paid and food on the table and the lights on. That was really the goal back then. And once I accomplished those things, I was happy that I could just do it all on my own, wasn't living in my parents' basement anymore, and even though I didn't have anything left over, it all felt worth it. So if you are in the younger generation and you're feeling this squeeze, you got to stop going into debt. Don't be buying, Christmas gifts and all this stuff if you can't afford it. If you got to put on the credit card, you can't afford it, guys. So be smart right now and just hang on to this, as much money as you can, because it's all going to come in handy over this next year, that's for sure. Before I was saying that we can't go a single week without talking about different layoffs, Well, now it seems like we can't even go a single video without talking about layoffs, because every time I turn around, I am reading about another company performing layoffs. And I had one of my subscribers, Chris, send me this today about NBC, you know, the big television network. They're going to be doing layoffs next year in 2023. They just announced that in January, they're going to be laying off an unknown amount of employees. Their earnings are way down, just like we've been talking about with many other publicly traded companies. And the reason it's down is because people aren't paying for cable anymore. That's what it really boils down to. People are signing up for these streaming services. They're not paying for cable, and I'm one of them. I canceled my cable account like over 2 years ago, and that was like one of the best things I ever did, guys, and that saves me a ton of money, by the way. This one for sale. I think these guys have a perfect example of a seller who missed the boat. They have been listing this property on and off for basically $2.5 million since August, and no one's buying it. They put it on the market for a month or two, remove it, put it back on, and think no one's gonna notice? Come on, how dumb do you think people are? So NBC is now owned by Comcast, and anybody out there who's ever had Comcast cable can probably tell you just how awful it is. And it's no wonder they're losing subscribers, and this stuff costs a fortune now. And just last quarter alone, they lost about 561,000 subscribers. So that's quite a bit. And in the meantime, you see these other streaming services like Peacock, for example, continuing to gain subscribers. So I think that's pretty much people voting, saying, you know, we're tired of paying the $200 a month cable bill. I mean, mine, guys, went from like 110, something like that. Then they raised it to like 160 a month, and I was like, no, I'm out. And I was actually getting less services for more money, and that was basically the breaking point for me. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be going for this anymore. I'm done. But the thing about these NBC layoffs is they don't even know how many people they're going to have to lay off yet, because right now they only have a budget set up for next year of what they need to cut their costs down to. So they're not even sure yet how many people they're going to axe from this. They're saying the bulk of the layoffs will probably be in ad sales and marketing and traditional back-end functions of cable companies, whatever that is. They're not really specific on what that means. But those are the people who are most likely to get cut first. And of course, you didn't hear in there executives or CEOs. Those guys aren't getting laid off, guys. They'll probably actually get a raise from this. That's my guess. You know, it's 2023. They need a raise. And of course, NBC is not the only one. Other cable networks have done this recently. You have Warner Brothers doing this, Discovery, CNN is going to cut employees starting in December. So lots of companies, guys, doing layoffs, and it's just like the list never ends. Just when I think I've covered it all and told you guys all the companies that are doing these layoffs, it seems to be always somebody new coming along. And speaking of layoffs, the unemployment claims last week have risen to 240,000. That's 240,000 just 1 week, guys, that are filing for unemployment. And this is nationwide, of course. That number is up 17,000 more people from the week before. So you can pretty much imagine these numbers are just going to continue climbing well into the new year, because there seems to be no end in sight right now with how many people are getting laid off. And you can just see it with these unemployment filings going up. Right now, in the average given week, about 226,000 people are filing for unemployment in the US. In Canada, the central bank there has also been increasing their interest rates, just like we've been doing here in the US. And the central bank in Canada issued a warning the other day talking about how a bunch of people in Canada that have these adjustable rate mortgages, which is a lot of people, that is the more normal type of financing that people get in Canada. And it's to the point where they're saying about half of all of the variable rate mortgages that were taken out between 2020 and 2022 are going to be seeing large increases in payments over there. That's going to help out real nicely with the housing crisis in Canada as well. But really the funny thing about this is that the central bank in Canada is all upset because everybody's now coming out and trying to tell them what to do. Like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. How could you not know inflation was going to go so high after, you know, all of this money printing and things like that. And now they're upset because it's making them look bad, and it's eroding the people's confidence in Canada of the financial system and all sorts of things like this. So they're not really happy because everyone's trying to tell them what to do now, because they basically messed up just like all the other central banks across the world. So guys, just take it easy. Don't be looking for crazy things to invest in right now. Just keep it tried and true, you know, keep it vanilla, because vanilla is safe. It might not be the most interesting, it might be downright boring. You know, they say that the best way to make money in the stock market is to dollar cost average over a 30-year lifespan into the S&P 500, you know, but nobody does it, or very few people do it, and that's why most people lose, because they end up, you know, buying high and selling low. So you just have to stick with the fundamentals right now, keep things simple, stay out of debt, avoid these scams, and you'll probably be okay. And most importantly, you need to keep your income coming in right now. So always make sure you have extra money saved. I think that's the biggest thing right now, especially with all these companies doing layoffs. You know, I told you about Kathleen's story the other day on how, you know, she went 2 months without a job, and you need to have a minimum of 2 months saved up right now, guys, in preparation for this. So just be ready, because it's happening to a lot of people right now. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and if you did and you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I have a brand new video, and if you don't want to wait, check out my next video on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.